KLZ 560 is a Crawford Broadcasting God and Country station.
It's the Kim Monson Show, analyzing the most important stories.
The socialization of transportation, education, energy, housing, and water, what it means is that government controls it through rules and regulations.
The latest in politics and world affairs.
Under this guise of bipartisanship and nonpartisanship, it's actually tapping down the truth.
Today's current opinions and ideas.
On an equal field in the battle of ideas, mistruths and misconceptions is getting us into a world of hurt.
Is it freedom or is it force? Let's have a conversation.
Indeed, let's have a conversation, and welcome to hour number 2 of the Kim Monson Show. Thank you so much for joining us. You're each treasured, you're valued, you have purpose. Today, strive for excellence. Take care of your heart, your soul, your mind, and your body, my friends. Okay. And check out our website. That's Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter, and you can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We are an independent voice, and we search for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force versus freedom. Something's a good idea. You shouldn't have to force people to do it. And it is a Kurt Gerwitz Monday. Kurt Gerwitz, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It means it's the first Monday of the month. Here we are.
Can you believe it? Oh, my gosh.
I started with you in November, I think.
Last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah, last year.
Okay.
I think we're approaching our 1-year anniversary of
Congratulations.
Can you believe that?
That's awesome. And you're a finance professor?
I am the finance professor.
You are
I'm the fun finance professor. I tell jokes when you hear my presentations on economic updates. I'm giving a new presentation this Friday on personal finance.
Good.
Yes,
okay.
So I'm digging deep into, look, we can't do anything about the federal debt, but we could do something about our personal debt.
How could people find that?
I might put it up on my YouTube channel. People should always be looking at should be subscribed to my YouTube channel, where I put up videos and pictures of you and I put up our conversations here.
Okay. So, and again, that YouTube channel can be found where?
It's on YouTube, and then if you just find me, it's Kurt Gerwitz, Kurtger, like Germany, and then Witz.
Okay. There you go. And I did want to say thank you to the Harris family for their gold sponsorship of the show. And thank you to the National Shooting Sports Foundation for their gold sponsorship of the show as well. The National Shooting Sports Foundation represents the nation's manufacturers, retailers, and distributors of firearms, optics, ammunition, and other related sporting goods and media. They have about 9,000 members, and they are known for the annual Shooting Hunting Outdoor Trade Show, or SHOT Show, in Las Vegas. So be sure and check that out. The documentary Art Club movie, we need to make sure that we're talking with people about this. This is the experience of Erin Lee and her family when her 12-year-old daughter was invited to Art Club, but it wasn't Art Club. It was actually a transgender indoctrination session, and it is important to check that out. So again, that is artclubmovie.com. You can find that, artclubmovie.com. And our word of the day is inculcate, and it's spelled I-N-C-U-L-C-A-T-E. It's a transitive verb. Could be to impress something upon the mind of another by frequent instruction or repetition. To inculcate sound principles. Number 2, to teach others by frequent instruction or repetition. So inculcate the young with a sense of duty. And number 3, to teach and impress by frequent repetitions or admonitions. Christ inculcates on his followers humility. And I thought this was really a good word, because my dear dad passed on Friday, and as a little girl, he was a farmer in western Kansas, and we would ride around in the pickup truck in western Kansas, and we would talk about the American idea. He'd talk about Lincoln, and I just have some quotes that I wanted to share with all of you. First of all, one of my kids said that Grandpa smelled like diesel fuel and Old Spice. Can you?
Like a real man.
A real man, and he was a real man. But he would quote, he had a high school education, and he would quote Shakespeare to me as a little girl. To be or not to be, that is the question. I can remember her saying that. Or, all the world's a stage, and we are merely players making our entrances and exits. And then he said, if you know what you want in this world and are willing to work for it, the world will move out of your way and you can accomplish it. He said, life itself is simple. It's just us dumb humans that make it difficult. Touché. That's true. He says, I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And then this was a big one, Kurt. He said, while I may disagree with someone else and what they're saying, I gave 4 years of my life to Uncle Sam and the United States Air Force to protect their right to say it. And how truly American. And I'll miss him. He was, I'm blessed to have him as my father, and I will miss him.
Do you think that experience that you described of him having the eminent domain where they took some of y'all's land for I-70, do you think that influenced your view of the world or your political leanings?
Boy, I don't know, because we certainly sat down and we had a discussion about eminent domain and what that is exactly. And I think that, Kurt, that's so interesting you would bring that up. I think I have a real understanding of eminent domain and what the founders meant with that. And certainly if there was a need to protect the general welfare, everyone, the welfare of the country, of people in the country, then that's where eminent domain would be appropriate. So a national highway system where you could move goods or services or military equipment if necessary, because Eisenhower came back from World War II and seen the Autobahn. He'd seen that, having a highway system where you could move food, troops, all those things was important. We didn't have that in America. Now, there certainly are people who could say it was a good idea, bad idea, but I kind of understood that. My dad was never, I think he thought that was an okay thing. And of course, he's compensated. With eminent domain, you're compensated for the takings of your land. So let's go over to when I was on City Council of Lone Tree. And Public Works came in, and they wanted to put a right turn lane in by a Starbucks. And the Public Works said that they were having trouble finding who they could get permission from, and that they thought they might need to use eminent domain for that turn lane. And I'm like, I don't think that that's really the proper role of eminent domain. And so I said to them, I would like to actually see all of the emails and all of the phone records for you working to make the connection regarding the eminent domain for this. And I also had the same discussion regarding they wanted to use eminent domain for the landing pad for the $7 million pedestrian bridge that hardly anybody walks over that I voted against. I needed to just get that in there too. So, and same thing. I said I would like to see all of the records on this. And guess what, Kurt? They were able to actually come to an agreement to purchase the land for each of those things instead of using eminent domain. And so, gosh, I mean, that's a good question, but I do think that whole experience with my dad and eminent domain really probably did really affect my attitude on that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm wondering if, when I heard you say it was next to a Starbucks, I thought, I'd like to see, in any town in Denver go up against Howard Schultz. I mean, there's some power behind Starbucks. They can do what they want.
Well, and actually, the turn lane was helpful for them, but
Oh, well, then it did happen.
It did happen without eminent domain, and so eminent domain should be used very rarely. And the other thing, and I was thinking about this regarding the potential using the eminent domain for that landing pad or taking land from people, and there's a difference between land and cash. And so land has this value, and so if eminent domain is used to pay for some land, people are paid cash, but cash, our dollar is a deflationary asset, whereas land typically does inflate. So in essence, paying people cash for that, I mean, it almost would be better to have a trade land for land. Are you following me on that?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Because of our inflation beliefs of our economists, that's why cash the word's not depreciates, not
deflate,
not in accounting, right? That's why, right? The inflation steals the purchasing power of our cash,
right? So I've always kind of thought that we really need to visit if eminent domain is being used. We certainly need to visit that deflationary value of cash. And then, of course, we'll have Trent Luce on Wednesday. But you've got in the Midwest, you've got little different governments that want to use eminent domain for these CO2 pipelines. And again, taking people's farmland, and that's a whole other question as well. But we've got a lot to talk about. Kurt Gerwitz is in studio with us, and we'll talk about. I have to ask you about Sam Bankman-Fried as well. So we'll talk about that. We get to do this because of our wonderful sponsors, and it is Monday, and so we will be talking with Roger Mangan. And I get to work with a number of great people, and one of those is Roger Mangan and his State Farm insurance team. Roger, last week we talked about Medicare. Baby boomers are getting to Medicare age. And I wanted a clarification from last week. We were talking about... You said that there was the supplement, which would be for somebody that's 65, a male, around $1,500. But then you also mentioned the number $174.70 per month. Are those different? I mean, are those two different costs that people would have?
Yes, they are. And I'm glad you brought that up because Part B Medicare covers doctors, Part A hospitals. Okay. So if you never bought a supplement, a Medicare supplement, your cost would be $174.70 a month. This in 2024.
Okay. Good. And if you were a male, that's what it would be, is $174 and change, basically.
That's male or female.
Oh, that is male or female?
Male or female.
Okay.
Now, that's premised on you filing married jointly and making less than $194,000 a year in retirement. Now, this is important to listen to. People go, well, that's a lot of money in retirement. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't for some. But so if you are making $194,000 or less, your rate is $174.70, and it comes out of your Social Security check. However, if you're making between $194 and up to $246 a year in retirement, that number goes up to about $235 per month, and it's tiered for people with higher incomes. There's 6 tiers I'm looking at here. The top tier, and if you're making this much, you probably could afford the increase, but if you're making $750,000 or more, that's $568 a month as opposed to $174.70 per month. So the more you make in retirement, the more you pay for Part B, which they're going to take out of your Social Security check.
Do people have a choice, or do they have to be in Medicare?
They have a choice. They could go to Medicare Part C, which is the Advantage plan. And the Advantage plans they're very attractive, and all you see on TV now is advertisements from several vendors or providers. Humana is a big one that does a lot of advertising right now. And the advantage to the Advantage plan is you don't have that $1,517 per month that you pay for a supplement.
Or per year.
Excuse me, per year, yes. Per year. So if you're married and you're 65, you're going to be paying somewhere around $3,000 a year for a Medicare supplement. With the Advantage plan, that pretty much goes away, and people go, wow, that's really great. I don't have to pay that for a Medicare supplement. Now, the question is, how does a Humana, for example, how could they not charge you something and provide you with this service? Well, it's interesting because the government actually would be writing Humana a check. Today, I think it's about $11,800 per year that they would provide to Humana for you as, let's say, the spouse. The other spouse, another $11,800 check. The government's writing to Humana to cover those medical costs. So it's not free. Humana's making some money, and they're covering your costs, and they're saving you the cost of a Medicare supplement. Now, there's some disadvantages to the Advantage plan. One would be if you are mobile and you're going from Denver, Colorado to Florida, and the Humana plan doesn't really cover you in that particular zip code area you're in another state. So if you're traveling in retirement, you need to be very careful and make sure you understand fully in-network, out-of-network costs associated with the various companies that sell these Advantage plans. And there are about 3,900 companies, actually, that sell the Advantage plan. I don't want to be focusing on Humana, but they're doing an awful lot of advertising right now.
Right. Well, $11,000 a person, I could see how that could be somewhat attractive. For people that would like to sit down and really talk about this or getting to Medicare age, what's the best way for people to reach you, Roger?
They can call us at 303-795-8855.
And again, that's 303-795-8855. Like a good neighbor, the Roger Mangan team is there.
With the limited number of homes in the Colorado Front Range market, Karen Levine can help you achieve your home buying or selling vision. Karen has the right connections, technology, and strategies to help you buy or sell your home or to purchase a new build. Whether you're feeling overwhelmed or want someone to take the wheel, or you just need a second opinion, you can rest assured the RE/MAX Realtor, Karen Levine, is the right agent for you. Call Karen Levine at 303-877-7516. Karen is the trusted professional who strives for excellence. That number is 303-877-7516.
You'd like to get in touch with one of the sponsors of The Kim Monson Show, but you can't remember their phone contact or website information. Find a full list of advertising partners on Kim's website, kimmonson.com. That's Kim, MONSON.com.
And welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Be sure and check out our website. That is Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter, and you can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We are an independent voice, and we search for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force versus freedom. If something's a good idea, you should not have to force people to do it. Did want to give a shout out to my buddies at the Colorado Union of Taxpayers. This is an all-volunteer group. The board is Steve Dorman, Greg Goliansky, Russ Haas, Bill Hamill, Carl Honegger, Rob Knuth, John Nelson, Joseph O'Laughlin, Wendy Warner, and Marty Nielsen. And the team has done a great job. They've actually went through and they rated all of the bills that were presented at the Colorado special session a couple of weeks ago. This afternoon, I will get that email lined around and get that out to people. And thank you to this team for doing what they needed to do. With my father passing on, I got discombobulated on things, and so I'm going to get that taken care of. And join us. It's $25 to become a member, and that will put you on the list to receive the email each week during the legislative session. You will be so informed, and we certainly, again, we are all volunteers, and we would really appreciate you joining us. And you can get more information by going to coloradotaxpayer.org, I think it is, but you can put in Colorado Union of Taxpayers in your search engine, and that will bring it up. As I mentioned, my dear father passed on this last Friday, and he served for 4 years in the United States Air Force, and I purchased a brick that will be on one of the pathways of service at the USMC Memorial as they do the remodel. And you can do that too by honoring your loved one by going to usmcmemorialfoundation.org. And it is a beautiful gift for Christmas or Hanukkah. You'll get this beautiful certificate, and it is just a great way to honor your loved one's service. And I'm so glad that I did that. And I'm so glad that I did it before Dad had passed on, because he was so honored to have that certificate. In studio with me is Kurt Gerwitz. And Kurt, it's great to have you here. You are the finance professor. I need to mention that to people. So great to have you. And again, tell us just a little bit about what you are doing with your students and reporting on Colorado corporations.
Yes, we are looking at publicly traded corporations. So in the life cycle of a startup or of a company that has an idea of delivering a product or service to its clients and customers, one of the exits for the founders, the way to get wealthy on that day and to get a huge capital cash injection into the company in order to continue its mission, is the day that it goes public. We call that an IPO, an initial public offering. And so companies that have already done that, meaning that they are listed on most likely the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, and like so many things, the top two only matter. I like to joke sometimes because I have a pet bunny rabbit. It's an exotic pet.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's an exotic pet by definition. So it's like, well, I heard someone say that it's the third most popular pet. But I heard somebody say, no, that's goldfish. So maybe it's the third most popular pet with 4 legs. But but no one knows that. No one knows that about rabbits, and because cats and dogs are 1 and 2. So NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange are 1 and 2. There is an American stock exchange headquartered in Chicago that nobody knows about, nobody thinks about. So if you're listed,
I knew that because I was in the investment business.
Yes, that's right. You are well educated in the space, and so there's If you are on those, if you're publicly listed, it means you have a ticker, right? You have a 3 or 4 letter code that, and it means that anybody can invest in your company. And so those are exciting companies. And then because they have to publish we say they have to open the kimono once a quarter. They have to publish their numbers. They have to tell you their income statement and their balance sheet. And so this is, and they're highly regulated by all the various regulations that protect investors, mostly from the SEC, but also from those exchanges themselves. Like you have to be you have to maintain a certain level of success to stay listed on one of those. So like the New York Stock Exchange, if you fall below $5, you're called a penny stock, for example, and then you're put on notice, and you need to increase your standing to stay on the list. Well, there's about 10,000 of them in the United States, and 100 of those 10,000 are headquartered here in Colorado. And so you get the big boys like Ball Corp, Crocs. We talked about Crocs. I love that a company can go so far on one product. It is that great of a product.
Rubber shoes.
Yes.
Isn't that great? It's America.
Right. Yes. So somebody had an idea. And boy, 10 years later, they're actually really big. And I don't know the number of analysts covering those companies, but because they're public, you get Wall Street, and I call them analysts, and they're looking at every detail about these companies to try to find, is that stock going to go up or is it going to go down? Is it a good place to put money, or is it a good place to avoid putting money? And this is what I train my students to do. And we look at the small cap companies, we call them, even though they're generally big companies, because again, they've reached that pinnacle of success of having gone public. But we, I take a group of students and we look at the ones. I'm trying to find the ones that are undercovered, if you will, like the ones that the New York is not, that Wall Street's not flying out here to Denver to look at. One of my examples would be the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. We have not covered them yet, but I very much want to, because I want my Willy Wonka experience. They won't return my calls, so if Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, if you're out there listening, let's talk.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but they're headquartered in Durango, Colorado. And so does a Wall Street analyst want to fly into Denver and then drive to Durango, Colorado? I guess
only if they want to ski.
Right, yeah, go in the winter. They might actually fly into Santa Fe. I think might even be closer than us. But so it's there's zero analysts covering that company. Like, for example, the most covered company on planet Earth is Apple. AAPL is the ticker, and they've got 22 analysts covering Apple.
Did you know that Al Gore is on the board?
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise. I always wonder, how do our politicians get rich?
I wonder. Because they don't create anything.
I'd rather they were on the board of a publicly traded company where there's some eyeballs on it and there's some accountability, And I don't know what value he's adding there.
Yeah, I don't know either. Speaking of the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, I told you while we were getting things lined around that I saw a meme. So yesterday was the first day of Advent, and we all have our Advent calendars. And I saw this meme. I loved it. It says, "How come there's only 3 days left on my chocolate Advent calendar?"
Yeah, and I say, boy, it's kind of early in December for that too.
That it is. That it is. Well, we're going to continue the conversation. Kurt Gerwitz is in studio with me, and I want to ask him about Sam Bankman-Fried, AI, the economy. Of course, we only have just a few minutes to do that, but we'll talk about all of these things. We get to do this because of our sponsors like Lauren Levy.
If you are 62 or older, a reverse mortgage could be a great tool regarding retirement and estate planning. It is essential to understand the process. Lauren Levy with Polygon Financial Group has nearly 20 years in the mortgage industry and has the experience to answer your questions. Lauren understands that each financial transaction is personal. If you'd like to explore your options on a reverse mortgage, remodel your home, buy a rental property, or move, call Lauren Levy at 303-880-8881. Licensed in 49 states, Kim Monson highly recommends Lauren Levy for all your mortgage needs. Call Lauren at 303-880-8881.
Focused and wise marketing is essential for your success, especially during tough economic times. If you love The Kim Monson Show, strive for excellence and understand the importance of engaging in the battle of ideas that is raging in America, then talk with Kim about partnership, sponsorship opportunities. Email Kim at kimmonson.com. Kim focuses on creating relationships with individuals and businesses that are tops in their fields. So they are the trusted experts listeners turn to when looking for products or services. Kim personally endorses each of her sponsors. Again, reach out to Kim at kimmonson.com.
And welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Be sure and check out our website. It's Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter, and you can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. And, okay, Kurt Gerwitz, I'm trying to look this up. Crocs, you and I are asking the question, what is the ingredient for Crocs? And so let's see, we're going to... well, somebody says that they are clogs, some kind of clogs, but they do not contain any wood. Well, I could have told you that.
When I was a kid, clogs were made out of wood.
Yeah, exactly.
Back when men were men and smelled like diesel fuel.
and Old Spice.
And Old Spice.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, where do you want to start? First of all is Sam Bankman-Fried. And so he had... currency. Now I'm having
cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency. Was his company traded on any of the exchanges or anything?
Oh boy, I don't know off the top of my head. I want to say no. So what he was doing was he was creating his own exchange. So we talked about the New York Stock Exchange, the NYSE, and also the NASDAQ. Those are the two big ones. Well, he was just creating his own. And they were, instead of trading stocks, which is ownership in a company, people were able to trade cryptocurrencies, which is pixie dust made up fantasy money that costs a lot of energy to create and provides arguably no value. I can make the argument on both sides for cryptocurrency, but when there's 10,000 what we affectionately call crap coins, and Bitcoin is at the top and Ethereum is right next to it as the highest market cap, the most popular cryptocurrencies, they might have a use case, but one of the use cases seems to be avoiding American regulations for anti-money laundering, and we have strict controls that we really in America don't want our dollars supporting terrorism, or Iran or North Korea. So,
you mean like when the Biden administration sends money to Iran?
Yeah, sending money to Iran is absolutely, very clearly illegal in the United States. You and I could not send money to Iran.
Do you remember the story that during the Obama administration that there were plane loads of cash that was sent to Iran? I mean,
because you can't use the banking system. That's why it's pallets of cash.
Did he really do that?
I don't know. I suspect so. I mean, how do you get a story like that? And it's the only way to move money to Iran because our banks are not allowed to do that.
Aha. Okay, let's continue on. So Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, we can do this one pretty quickly because it's almost wrapping up. As much as I love to talk about it because the drama is so high and so interesting, but he was found guilty on 7 counts of fraud, and so there is a little bit of justice in the world. And really, the people, I never want to blame victims in general, but if you were investing in cryptocurrency and playing with in his exchange, which was called FTX. I mean, he invented his own cryptocurrency to pay himself. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm teaching my students how an income statement works and how the balance sheet works and why it's meaningful. And we're measuring everything in U.S. dollars. And when we start, like, just inventing pixie dust, Sam Bankman-Fried coins, and he puts them on his balance sheet as being, there's a translation, what's it worth in U.S. dollars, and so he said, I've got all this money, and then he wakes up one day, and actually it's a competitor of his and a friend over at Binance, and they said, we don't have faith in that cryptocurrency, and that's what caused the house of cards to tumble. Well, also, since I saw you last, Kim, that Binance company, he has been removed by force. The CEO of that company was removed by force as they are facing scrutiny. They've been convicted of fraud or violation of securities laws because the securities laws are confusing and they've been asking for clarity. And I don't know if you could imagine this, but the powers that be aren't doing a good job of creating a regulatory environment for this new asset class.
Well, super interesting. I did want to go back to, you mentioned with your students and what you're doing. SEC is highly regulated. There's reporting that's required once a quarter. How is it, Kurt Gerwitz, that we have banks and we have publicly traded companies that have regular scrutiny to what is going on? And even when that happens, things happen. But how is it that we are not doing any kind of audits on our voter registration rolls or anything like that? It is beyond belief to me that we do not have something that is actually auditing what happens with our elections.
It's an interesting question. I say that the strength of America is because our accountants would rather lose their jobs than lie. And as long as America...
Most of them, yeah.
Right. Nothing's 100%, but we have to... It's an element of transparency and truth-seeking and honesty that is required for a society to function, for us to trust each other. And we do, one of the regulations for these publicly traded companies is that they get an external audit. And so a company that, and there is a conflict of interest because the company chooses the external auditor, but we can manage a conflict of interest and we can be adults and we can say, look, we're seeking truth. And it's just, crypto offers a solution for this because what crypto does is it creates a distributed ledger, which is like a list that is considered to be more accurate than any other way that we do lists. Like if you and I were keeping a ledger on paper of our transactions, every time we go to lunch, you buy the next one, I buy the next one, you buy the next one, and we want to keep that. Well, where would that list be kept that it was kept safe, and would it be honest? And and the answer is we put other people's eyeballs on it, and we put it on the internet. We put it on a million other people's computers so that not one of them can change it, and that's what crypto does. And so one of the subjects I prepared for today was to talk about Sam Altman.
Okay.
Another not crypto Sam, but another high-tech Sam.
Okay.
and he's doing something called WorldCoin. He's doing this on the side. It's his side hustle, and they're trying to solve identity. And one of the big questions is, will this help? Will this be the future of democracy and voting? Because one vote, one person could really actually, for the first time in history, we're staring at a technology that could absolutely 100%. Well, that's always the question right there. But could it solve this question of identity and the certainty?
Don't you think a good place to start would be people having to show their driver's license if they vote? What do you think of that?
Well, you know,
that's too simple.
It's too simple, right?
I mean, I see risk with that. Then now I don't know Sam Altman, but I don't trust these tech Sams. And the one vote, one person. What if you get into a digital report card? And so, okay, you can't vote because you are not fill in the blank, vaccinated or this or that. So I see some real risk with that, although it sounds like they're trying to couch this as a solution. But one of the first things to do is clean up the voter rolls, quit mail-in ballots all over the state, and start to audit our elections. Don't you think those three things could be really good?
It's disgusting that we even have to have this conversation. I'm kind of critical. I am very critical of the two-party system. Where why is it that we think it's okay? Why is it that we have to fight over this? And the answer is, someone thinks that it benefits their side, their team, to do things the one way. The liberals or the Democrats would criticize the conservatives, Republicans, and say, like, "Oh, you're trying to prevent people from voting," and the conservatives and the Republicans are saying, "You can't just send a ballot, like you just said. You can't just send ballots. We can't. If there's 1 million voters, let's not send out
2 million.
2 million ballots and
say, God, can't.
But this game where it's like." They think they're going to win because of that behavior, and look, you have a stronger stomach for politics than I do, and I appreciate that in you. But it's tough. It shouldn't be this hard. We have the technology. Okay,
so Sam Altman. Let's continue on with him. AI. I think you said that he's an AI guy, an artificial intelligence guy.
He's the CEO of OpenAI. Which is an ironic name. It was founded as a nonprofit. Elon Musk put in, I think, $60 million to get it started, and the idea was they really think that AI has this potential to be such a disruptive technology that we really need to put more eyeballs on it, more people thinking about it to protect humanity or to protect the economy, and so they tried to set up. Well, they did. They had set up a nonprofit structure, which means, so we were talking about private companies.
So let's just say, I got to think about this because I'm starting to. So nonprofit, Elon Musk puts in $60 million. So that means he gets a write-off for $60 million because it's a nonprofit, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, and he'll tell you what a mistake he made because, after Microsoft puts in $13 billion into an investment, meaning they want to see a return on it, meaning they're acting. MSFT is their ticker, so they have to answer to their shareholders. All of a sudden, we need to question the nonprofit structure. So they created an LLC that was owned by the nonprofit, but Microsoft and other investors got to. So they created it, and they called it. They put in a charter. They said, "Oh, it's going to be a limited profit. You could only get this 100 times your investment." So on 13 billion, that would be 130 billion that Microsoft could potentially gain on this investment into a nonprofit. Well, part of the drama here came from this complexity of the org chart. So you've got like a board, and I wanted to ask you about if you have a personal advisory board. But
do I?
Yeah.
No, just me.
Well, I would like to be on your board, but And you can be on mine. We can be on each other's boards. And we can have tax write-offs when we visit each other. But
when we go to Hooters for lunch, we'll write that off.
Yeah. It is a business expense. I mean, we are talking business here. And so they had this board structure at the top, and the complexity of all of this, well, they fired Sam Altman this past week. Or like 7 or 10 days ago.
The board did.
They fired him. Yeah, they fired the CEO. And so what he did was he got 700 out of 750 employees. 700 signed something, and they all tweeted with like a little heart emoji that there was a phrase that they used, like, "Without the team, there is no OpenAI." And first of all, now the name OpenAI is ironic because it's now closed. But so they. So the one of the board members who was his friend and had voted to kick him out, he goes, "Oh my God, I changed my mind. I didn't realize what he didn't say. The quiet part that he did not say out loud was, I didn't realize that Sam could do this. That he had this kind of power with he's got a cult going there, and so they brought him. So and Microsoft, they put billions in, and they're like, wait a minute, what's happening right now? I mean, Microsoft's stock moved down. We're talking hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of value disappeared when they fired Sam Altman, and they still to this day, 10 days later, have not told us the story. We don't know why. I just assumed he did something like the Uber CEO was misbehaving with the females in the office. He's commingling with the co-eds.
Now we don't have females in the office. We don't. Yeah, right. Okay, I digress.
Right now, now we look away from gender, right? But no, but that didn't come out. There was nothing like that. There's no accusation. So we still don't know why. Actually, one of the reasons this story is interesting is because there's intrigue around the whole thing, the whole structure that I just described, which is convoluted. It's a Franken structure. That it was partially designed to try to protect humanity from what AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, could do to hurt us. And so there's speculation that Sam Altman had advanced that and wasn't telling the board about it. And so there's this high drama, and he's back. So here we are a week later. Before I even got on the air with you again, it's all fixed. And part of that motivation of those 700 employees was there was going to be a secondary offering for $86 billion. So here's a nonprofit that is worth $86 billion in a matter of, and you hadn't heard about this. Right. Like, 1 year ago. So
they all want to get in line for the initial public offering. And
their incentives were very clear and very aligned.
Okay. Super fascinating. I'm talking with Kurt Gerwitz. We get to do this because of sponsors. But I did want to mention the Center for American Values. They are non-political, and they're nonpartisan. They're located in Pueblo, Colorado. Pueblo is known as the home of heroes because there are 4 Medal of Honor recipients who grew up in Pueblo, Colorado, if you can believe that. That is pretty something. But the Center for American Values was founded by Drew Dix, Medal of Honor recipient for actions he took 56 hours. It's fascinating. I actually watched the video last time I was down there, and absolutely fascinating. And then Brad Padula, who's a Emmy Award-winning documentary maker, and they said, we want to honor our Medal of Honor recipients, and we want to instill in ourselves and our children these values of America, of honor, integrity, and patriotism. You can get more information by going to AmericanValueCenter.org. That's AmericanValueCenter.org. We will be right back with Kurt Gerwitz.
A recent report notes that the number of children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder is consistently and dramatically increasing. This is heartbreaking. If your child or grandchild or someone you know has been diagnosed with autism or ADHD following exposure to Tylenol or acetaminophen during pregnancy, call Boson Law at 303-999-9999. Boson Law is a Colorado-based law firm who has been fighting Big Pharma for over 20 years. Call now at 303-999-9999 for a free, no-obligation review of your potential claim. Call now at 303-999-9999.
All of Kim's sponsors are an inclusive partnership with Kim and are not affiliated with or in partnership with KLZ or Crawford Broadcasting. If you would like to support the work of the Kim Monson Show and grow your business, contact Kim at her website, kimmonson.com. That's Kim Monson, MONSON.com.
Franktown Firearms staff and customers alike are concerned with your safety and ability to shoot well, and that comes from the sense of community that they foster at their shop. The staff doesn't work on commissions from sales, so there won't be any pressure to buy what you don't need. They host events like Ladies' Night every first Friday and a Tactical Fun Night every third Friday because they value their community and they understand that selling the most expensive product doesn't help you learn to shoot. Your money goes further at Franktown because they'd rather you to be self-sufficient with what you already own and be proficient in using it. If you're looking for a range and shop that can take you to the next level in your self-defense training, learn how to shoot in realistic scenarios from instructors who have been there, done that. Then look no further than Franktown Firearms. Go to klzradio.com/Franktown. Franktown Firearms, where friends are made.
And welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Check out our website. That's Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter. You can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We're an independent voice, and we search for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force, force versus freedom. If something's a good idea, you should not have to force people to do it. Another Christmas gift, Hanukkah gift, I just thought of, and that would be the gift of a family portrait or a portrait of children from Jansen Photography. I mean, these are truly treasures. Go to janssenphotography.com and check out their website. You can see that Glenn Jansen, he's a master at lighting, and so a great gift would be that kind of a memory. So again, go to janssenphotography.com. That's janssenphotography.com. Kurt Gerwitz is in studio with me, and we have John Galt on the line. John, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Kim. Glad to be here. So I heard the first hour. I was listening to you about state law versus federal law. And you were talking a little bit about abortion and how you felt like that should be in the state purview rather than the federal purview. Generally speaking, I feel the same way about most laws with regards to them being state for all the reasons you mentioned in the first hour. And my question, I guess, is, are there crimes or laws that really have to be at the federal level at all, or should we have them all be state level? And clearly, I think there are cases where, where one state is infringing on the rights of another, you have to have federal laws. But really, murder is murder or mass murder or any of those things. Should we have those at the federal level? And the same thing with civil laws, which are typically done at the federal level. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, John Galt, that is such a good question because okay, so we were talking about abortion from a political standpoint. It is an issue that is being wrapped around Republican conservatives' necks. And I think that, gosh, to your point, when we look at the idea of America, of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, the life of a baby, if we do not protect that life, then where do we stop? Do we stop and then at the end of life say, oh, that life no longer is, and who determines it? That's the other question. Who determines it is no longer viable. That's another word that we see. So to your point, on a moral aspect, the moral case for America is that, yes, we are to protect life from the inception of life to the end of life. I think you're right on that. From a political standpoint, this issue has become such a cultural issue, and we need to make the case for life from a cultural standpoint. John Galt, your thoughts? How am I doing?
It's nebulous. It's hard to figure it all out, and I think we'd have to take every case individually and talk about them, which we don't have time for. With regards to abortion and murder, to me, in my mind, they're the same thing. And I know people, and it wasn't always that way. It changed over time. And I know people out there listening have different thoughts on it as well. And for me, my turning point came when I thought about, well, what's the difference between that baby 1 second before birth and 1 second after birth? Why is one protected fully by the Constitution after birth, but 1 second before, they're not. And, some people would argue because it's in the mother's womb. And so my next question is, why does that matter? Why does it matter? Why is it not life because it's in the mother's womb? So in the end, in my mind, it's murder. And so murder is something that's so significant, maybe it should be federal because it is so significant, because the vast majority of people on this planet believe that murder is something that's really horrendous. But I don't know that the arguments you made in the first hour about state laws, not taking precedent, but being in place instead of federal law so that we have local control and so that we can experiment are also important. But do we really want to experiment with something that 99% of people agree on?
Well, and John Galt.
Can I ask John Galt a serious question here? What are your thoughts on the death penalty?
Yeah, death penalty is also tough. Anytime taking life is a negative thing. Death penalty has a lot of different aspects to it as well. Death penalty can be protecting people from being murdered by those who have already murdered in the past. So you're protecting people's natural rights by destroying that life that we know to be a mass murderer, for instance. On the other hand, if it's possible to keep that person around and keep the society safe and not damage society through huge costs, because we know that keeping a murderer in jail can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Those are aspects as well. So there's so many different parts to that, and I don't have a perfect answer on the death penalty. Generally, I'm for it, but I can certainly argue against it as well.
So thank you, John Galt, and thanks, Kurt. That's an excellent question. First of all, in the big picture, I think that we need to continue in our culture to make the case for life. The other thing from a political standpoint is if there have been 60 million plus abortions since Roe, the Roe decision was made, that means that there's 60 million women and fathers that are carrying around with them this, knowing that there is abortion in their life. And so I think Democrats, they say that the conservatives, Republicans are judging people for that. And I think there may be enough significant pain with that issue as it is. I think that we really need to come at this issue with compassion, but also with truth and clarity. And we need to engage over here in the culture for sure. So, again, and I think Dr. Brian Jundept, good for him to bring this issue forward. John Galt, we have just about 30 seconds left. Your final thought?
Yeah, I think your point on compassion, no matter what it is, we as conservatives and Christians have difficulty speaking in terms of compassion, and that should always take the forefront with regards to messaging.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you on that. So, John Galt, thank you so much. Kurt Gerwitz, always fun to have you here. We're going to head over to Hooters Restaurants for lunch later today.
We are. I'm going to have the spicy fish tacos again.
And I'm going to have the fish and chips. Yes, maybe I will branch out. I'll have to think about that, but probably not.
Right, try a different sauce.
Yeah, try a different sauce, right. So, Kurt Gerwitz, always great to have you in studio. Normally the first Monday of each month, although we'll have to see what... I don't know. Is that the first? I haven't even looked at January yet, so we'll get that figured out. So it's great to have you here. And as I've mentioned, my dear father passed on Friday. And my quote for the end of the show, I went to Jimmy Valvano, and I love this. He said, "My father gave me the greatest gift anyone could give another person. That is, he believed in me." So, my friends, today be grateful, read great books, think good thoughts, listen to beautiful music, communicate and listen well, live honestly and authentically, strive for high ideals, and like Superman, stand for truth, justice, and the American way. My friends, you are not alone. God bless you, and God bless America.
Fast on a rough road, riding high through the mountains, climbing, twisting, turning further from my home. Young, like a new moon rising, fierce through the rain and lightning, wandering out into this great unknown. And I don't want no one to cry
The views and opinions expressed on KLZ 560 are those of the speaker, commentators, hosts, their guests, and callers. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Crawford Broadcasting or KLZ management, employees, associates, or advertisers. KLZ 560 is a Crawford Broadcasting God and Country station.